Kimberly, can you take roll, please? Here.
Vice President Terry Nicholson.
Here.
Secretary Elise Nielsen.
Here.
Treasurer Larry Williams. Trustee Brent Lawson.
Here.
Trustee Sean Gamble. Trustee Richard Lindsay.
Here.
Okay, we will observe our customary moment of silence. Richard, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. May I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Members of the audience may address the board on agenda items only. Seeing none, we will move on to academic highlights. Gordon's literacy interventions. Gordon Elementary educators Leslie Hoblitz and Megan Wilkerson.
So I'm going to introduce our two lovely ladies that will be coming up today. There are a lot of wonderful things happening at Gordon, as always, in this year. Some of them are bright and sparkly on their own and attract lots of attention, and some of them don't get quite the attention that I think that they deserve. And Mrs. Hoblitz she has just done a great job this year. And Mrs. Wilkerson exercises some of these practices perfectly. I mean, as close to perfectly as I've seen far more veteran teachers do. So I'm inviting them up to go ahead and talk about motivation and engagement in literacy at Gordon.
Awesome.
All right, well, happy March is Reading Month, and I'm really excited to be here today. I have great literacy information to share, and of course, Gordon celebrates literacy all year long, but it's perfect for us to be describing some of the great things that we're doing right now. So I will get started. So our topic is motivation and engagement in literacy. And motivation is activating. It drives engagement and activates behavior. Highly motivated readers will read longer, exert high cognitive effort, and will be dedicated to deep understanding and comprehension. Motivation and engagement. So the goal for Gordon Elementary is for all students to know the value and reward and joy of reading and writing. And the General Education Leadership Network, it's a MESA collaborative, focuses on those essential practices in early and elementary literacy. It's an excellent resource to guiding the ideals for best practice literacy. So motivation and engagement in reading, along with intentional teaching, using literacy assessments to guide instruction, is a main goal for best practice teaching and learning. So this is an example of the General Education Leadership Network. Okay, intentional teaching. So equally important to motivation and engagement is for all educators to be intentional about teaching literacy. So we always use data to drive our instruction. We always provide opportunities for goal setting and specific literacy objectives for each child. For example, a running record can be conducted routinely, and you would have key understanding of how each child processes information. So the assessment results would allow you to understand the strategic reading activity, the literacy skills, the accuracy, the comprehension, the fluency, the vocabulary knowledge, and the self-correcting behaviors. So just one running record can tell all of those strategic reading activities, and it's very powerful. So this is an example of a running record, and the running record, I actually use that daily in reading recovery, and I use that to drive my instruction. And so what's really neat about it is that you're looking at what the child is doing, how they're processing, and it's in a one-on-one format. And so you're listening to their reading, but you're seeing that they're finding parts and words known, or that they're using meaning cueing systems, or that they're structure or visual, that they're rereading or self-correcting, all of those things. So this is an example of what a running record looks like. And it's pretty exciting because it's actually our greatest understanding to the processes that are occurring in a child's mind. So it's a pretty cool thing. So this is the reading recovery literacy lessons designed for individuals, Mari Clay. So this is the person that we studied, and this is an expert of the field. And this is really where the running record came from. Okay, I want to introduce Megan Wilkerson, second grade teacher at Gordon Elementary School. This is her second year at Marshall Public Schools. Okay. And each day, Megan, she models the ideals of motivation and engagement for literacy, combined with intentional teaching to drive instruction. Megan has a readers and writers workshop environment within her classroom. The students have the choice to participate in literacy activities tailored to their specific need. But as well as having choice, she has clear expectations for specific literacy tasks to be achieved each day. So she evaluates literacy assessments and provides students with learning opportunities that fit their level of understanding.
Hi, I'm Megan. I just have a couple pictures up here. I thought I'd kind of talk about what's going on. These two pictures first are two kiddos practicing word work. I give them a lot of choices because they tend to be more engaged if they get to pick what they get to do. So there's about 6 choices that they get to choose for word work each day. They can do whatever, they just turn it in at the end so I know that it's completed, that they did work on it. At the beginning of the year, they only have about 1 to 2 choices. We kind of go through them slowly, and then they get more as they go on throughout the year. And then the last picture is the daily tour. So they're in 4 groups, and they do 4 rotations for about 20 minutes a day in their reading block. And so they're each at a different spot. We do word work, work on writing, read to self, work on computers, and we also have read to someone as well. Those are some we do. These are just a couple pictures of kiddos that are either reading to self or reading to someone. They really like the read to someone. These are just some more pictures. This word work activity, there's an ABC sort. So some of the kiddos that get bored with just writing the words like to be able to sort them in ABC order. There's other kids quizzing each other, and then there's another kiddo just reading to self in a comfortable rocking chair. I let them work wherever they want in the room as long as they work. So that keeps them engaged as well. This other picture is them on the computer. They're either on Epic, which is a website where they can listen to stories or read stories, or they're on Res Kids where there's comprehension questions after each book they read. This is a group of 3 kiddos that are reading to someone. And that's all there.
It's just really exciting to have Megan join today because she does such great work, as do all of our teachers at Gordon Elementary School. So thank you for being here today. Okay, so motivation and engagement, I want to talk a little more about this. There's intrinsic reading motivation, there's extrinsic reading motivation, self-efficacy, and social motivation. And I just want to talk a little bit more about this. The intrinsic reading motivation is the desire to learn. Extrinsic, of course, is the enjoyable environment and rewards. And the self-efficacy is the self-judgment of capabilities to achieve, as well as that social motivation, which is the interpersonal and community activities. So the goal is to support all of these ideals for every student. So if the child believes in the ability to achieve, and we believe in them as well, great accomplishments happen. The goal is to have active readers and high achievers. So Gordon staff, all of the Gordon staff supports the idea of having motivated and engaged learners. At all times, we have many authentic literacy experiences for learning. And I just wanted to list a few, but there's so many more. So the authentic literacy experiences, we have Battle of the Books, we have the Jane Goodall experience, we have Annie's Big Nature Lesson at Wilder Creek Nature Center, We have the big zoo lesson at Binder Park Zoo, research projects on all 50 states. We have biography presentations, read aloud stories for students through Gordon's Facebook page. And I want to mention how supportive it was for Kelly to come up with some great ideas for March's Reading Month. On Facebook, we had teachers reading to students, and they could access that on Facebook and have the teachers read aloud to them while at home, which was really neat. So it's pretty cool to have Kelly be so creative with that and support us with March as Reading Month activities. Let's see here. So the book bracket, we have book brackets for voting right now going on with books. Patricia Palaco, she visits often at Gordon, which is pretty cool, an author visit. We have Drop Everything and Read Day featuring community members supporting reading. We have mentor buddy reading across the school. Literacy buddies with volunteers routinely working with students each week in reading, which is really nice. We have actually some retired reading recovery teachers that come in once a week and work with children. It's pretty cool. We have literacy buddies with volunteers that are routinely working with students, and then early literacy experiences with read aloud, model reading, and writing. So our kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers are always doing those read alouds and model reading and writing, which is so impactful for children. So here are the authentic literacy experiences just around the school. Battle of the Books. Our fourth grade teachers have word growing readers. Authentic literacy experiences here. We have the book brackets. And what happens is they read and vote and choose books, and then there's a final book that wins. Authentic literacy experiences. If you like this book, then try this. So there's recommendations. We have a reward board for students that achieve their AR goal. We have these authentic literacy experiences just posted in the hallways where children really worked hard to produce a detailed report, which is pretty neat. And you'll see that throughout our school often. So we also, with all of these great reading experiences, we have something new this year. This is a new literacy support system. This year we created an additional literacy support system where all students are challenged with specific goals of learning. So the literacy support system reaches all students kindergarten through 5th grade. Monday through Thursday for 30 minutes per day, kindergarten through 3rd grade students participate in flexible literacy groups with intentional goals for learning. Literacy support system. So, for example, kindergarten students receive literacy support with one group of students working on comprehension and fluency strategies, a second group of students working on orchestration of strategic reading objectives, and a third group of students working on hearing and recording sounds and words. So if you can visualize, all at one time, we have 3 groups. We're in small groups. We have 3 groups of students supported at their level of learning. I am working with students that might need just a little more support, and I'm working on that hearing and recording sound and word skills with kindergarten students. The second kind of level of support is the classroom teacher who would be working on those orchestration of strategic reading. And then the third level of support is our reading paraprofessional who we have this year. And she's able to kind of extend and support those students that are showing that they have some comprehension and fluency and expression, and they need to be challenged. So we have motivated and engaged active learners. And so this is an example. Here we have some mentor reading going on in one of the pictures there. And then we have some partner reading where they're working on fluency. They're reading the same text together, taking turns partner reading. And there's a lot of skills being challenged there. They're working on comprehension, they're reading aloud, their fluency and orchestration of reading. And there's that interpersonal and that community connection too. Because they, at this age, kids love to have that type of social part as they're learning and reading. So here's some more motivated and engaged active learners. This is exciting here. One of our students was so proud that she has advanced into reading chapter books. So we took a special picture and really celebrated that. We have some kindergarten students there that are working on reading words, vocabulary. But this type of word reading that they're doing, there's a picture and the word, and it's actually an on-set rhyme where it has a particular chunk that's similar. And so as they go through the word wheel, they're connecting the meaning but also the word part. Here we have more students just practicing that reading, which is so important. This is a new activity that we have this year, where we have our students reading. It's called a paired text or fluency, but it actually has a yellow and a blue part of the same reading, and they take turns. So they're working on fluency there and comprehension and all those things. Here is an example. We have Becky DeWitt, who is here today. A picture of her. She's doing excellent work. And this is the reading prayer professional that we have within our school. So this, if you were to walk into Gordon, you would see her working with these students. This would be an example. This is a first grade class that's working here. And I'm working in my room, and the teachers are working in their room. So it's really exciting. All at once, in a small group, we're seeing kids being challenged. I want to talk a little more specifically about another system that we were able to do with this literacy support system. We were able to dedicate a day to making words. And so this is a specific word study experience that occurred once a week. So first, second, and third grade students participate in an interactive making words experience. We use data to drive the instruction, and we're analyzing individualized spelling assessments. And every child is provided with a word work lesson that supports their specific learning objective. And this falls in line with the philosophies of the Words Their Way program. So for example, one group of first graders may be studying short vowel sounds, while other students could be working with blends and digraphs. And then another group is focusing on inflectional endings. So every child is working at their zone of proximal development, right where they need to be challenged. It's not too hard or easy, and it's words that they need to understand and make connections with and analyze and evaluate. So the Making Words philosophy is for students to compare and contrast, analyze, and evaluate specific word patterns at their level of learning. Therefore, students are not memorizing words, but are rather creating and constructing words to support an increase in understanding of word patterns. So the difference in that, if you are to have a spelling word list that may or may not be exactly at your word level, and memorizing that is as effective as constructing and comparing words and using that knowledge at your zone of proximal development to understand words. So there's a difference there of word study, and we're testing that this year and seeing some great work and learning with the kids and making words. So this is a photo of a third grade classroom that's doing making words. And you can see there, they're making words is where they use magnetic letters on a dry erase board, and they compose and make these words and can compare and contrast them. So this is a third grade classroom doing that. Here is my group of learners that are working within my room. And this particular group, they're working on the short vowel sound, U. So they're working with words all within that. And then Mrs. Lewis is working with students that might be working with words for inflectional endings or long vowel patterns as well. So all at once, these kids are being supported at their zone of proximal development. And here you can see, this is an example of the individualized spelling list. And so when we score this, we're able to exactly know where kids are working with words. So the goal of making words in literacy is to transfer that understanding, of course, to continuous text in reading and writing. So whenever you study or practice something in isolation, it always needs to go back into reading and writing. And so a majority of our time, we want students to be doing that, reading, writing successfully. But if we pull a skill in isolation, we want it to be effective. And if that is effective, it should carry on into the reading and writing. Some things that are really important for students with learning is phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. And we try to address all of those skills every day for our kids. Okay, so let's see. The idea is that we want students to be immersed in literacy. So in order to encourage motivation and engagement in learning, students need to have experience in a variety of literacy systems. For example, students need opportunity to work on fluency and vocabulary. They need opportunity to work on comprehension. They need opportunity to read independently. And then most importantly, they need time to have that explicit instruction from their teacher at their instructional level of reading. And that's when it's so important that we use our assessments to guide our instruction. So writing is also equally important, where students have to do the response journal writing or journal entries or write in various genres. That's also very important as well, along with the reading. So a reader's workshop approach is very important, where we challenge our readers, and we're always using literacy assessments to drive our instruction. An example of a reader's workshop approach is the Lucy Calkins reading and writing program. We have that for writing. Reading is also available, and that's another workshop approach. And here are just some pictures where students are immersed in literacy. They're in seating that's comfortable for them. They're working with peers, or they're reading independently. They're doing share reading, share writing, word work activities, word sorts. Another important part to our system that we have is reading recovery. And that is where I receive training on a monthly basis, and I'm just so thankful for that opportunity. This is where we can work with our first grade students that just need a little extra support with literacy, and our goal is to get them as successful as possible and independent readers. So that also occurs daily at Gordon. And I want to finish today with this quote from Mari Clay. And what she's saying here is that most theorists assume that the brain is working on several levels as we read and write. If required, you can deliberately give attention to any level in this hierarchy. So to a feature letter, or to a letter level, or to a letter cluster, or a word level, or a phrase level, or a sentence level, or the gist of a passage. But theorists often focus on one or two of those levels, rather than all of them when explaining what reading is. In reading recovery, most word work occurs on continuous text. So that's using the particular child's known vocabulary as a reference point. When the learner has massive opportunities to read and write continuous text successfully, he will be operating effectively on all the levels listed above. So I just wanted to end with that we're doing all of these great things, and it's of course wonderful to work with students on isolated skills and to support them with that type of learning. But really our most successful time with students is to make sure that they're motivated, engaged, and working with continuous text and reading and writing. Thank you.
Questions?
No questions, just wow, that's just a lot, and thank you. And it's amazing the work that you and the rest of the staff are doing with the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. The approval of minutes, disbursements, employment, and school of choice resolution for 2019-2020. Can you give us background on probably just D?
Well, minister and the financials are included in your packet. Employment offer has been accepted, pending board approval and successful validation of criminal history record check and completion of unprofessional conduct. The adoption of the school choice resolution, which is in your packet 2019-2020, is required to accept applications of non-resident students who reside within the IFB and continuous interview with school districts for enrollment both semesters. It's the recommendation of the superintendent that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Entertain a motion. Motion. Okay. Discussion. The school of choice resolution is what we do every year. So, okay. Everybody's good? I'll start with Richard.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to report of the superintendent. Special recognition hires.
Sure. Jamie Whitaker fills the position of bus aide in the transportation department. Ms. Whitaker is a graduate of Marshall High School. We have a number of retirements that have come in recently, but the first one is up for your acknowledgement. We submitted Lisa Ayer's retirement for Helen Giselle. Helen Giselle retired with Marshall Public Schools on August 9, 2001, as a third grade teacher at Gordon Elementary. Ms. Giselle is currently teaching kindergarten at Gordon Elementary, where she retired from the district with 18 years of teaching service. So great.
Absolutely.
Okay, Coach Carnes out there? Hey, how are you?
Yay!
Marshall High School boys varsity swim team highlights, and this has been shared around a number of times, so many of you will have heard it, and we read it anyway. This senior class has only lost one league dual meet in 4 years. The SEC league champs for the past 3 years, and runner-up behind that Ziegler the year before that. Placed third at state this year, which is the highest finish in Marshall swimming history. Little applause for that. All three of our divers qualified for regionals. Ethan Johnson advanced to the state meet. There are 6 school records and 2 pool records, one at Marshall and one at Harper Creek. Team academic state champs last year and have an even higher GPA this year, so looking forward to that distinction. Results not been achieved yet. So Carnes, this is quite an accomplishment, quite a culminating piece of your career as a wonderful swim coach program. I want to congratulate you.
It's been one heck of a ride this year. We had 31 swimmers, which was quite a bit, and we knew we had a solid chance to be pretty good. We worked hard all year at it. I tell the boys it's the hardest thing they ever do every year, and I think they would agree that it probably is. And so we had a lot of accomplishments. This year's state meet was something that was just special. We think of swimming, we don't think of it being, a nail-biting type situation, but for us it was. It came down to the very last event, and we were in third, but the team was in fourth, who passed us, and we stayed in the same spot we were for the last event. And I went up to him and said, boys, we got to move up 2 spots. And we did, and we ended up taking third by first place. And so many they got 4 trophies, which is kind of unique because there is no regionals and there is no sectionals. So it was an amazing finish. The boys worked extremely hard, and they did everything in the class all year long. They had people come up and tell me that all the time. So just an amazing group of young men. So thank you.
Awesome. Congrats. Great job, guys.
Thanks for coming too.
Thank you.
Okay. That's excellent. The last thing I want to talk about is the Marshall High School music performance achievements. At the respective district festivals hosted in the Marshall High School Auditorium for Performing Arts, The Marshall High School Concert and Marshall High School Symphonic Band both received a rating of 1 superior overall. Marshall High School Symphony Orchestra received a 1 superior overall, which is really cool when you see how they developed over that 5 years. Marshall High School Concert Orchestra received a 2 excellent. The Marshall High School Bell Canto and Marshall High School Singers both received 1 superior rating. It's really amazing. All groups that received the first division rating qualified for state festival, and this unprecedented success was made all the more special by the district showcasing the amazing facility that received raised reviews from everybody who visited. The choirs will travel to Hope High School May 2nd for the State Choral Festival. The bands and orchestras do not participate in state festivals. Okay? So congratulations to them. That includes my report. We need to talk about the school resource officer.
Okay.
In your packet, you have the original agreement between Marshall Public Schools and the Marshall Police Department. This was built off of, if you don't remember, it was built off of the ACLU's white paper in regards to having school resource officers in schools. We took this and adopted the first time that we adopted or hired an SRO. The SRO came in in January of 2016. Because of the funding that we received and the additional application of that over the course of the year, we actually stretched it to a year and a half. We received grant funding from Enbridge, as well as a little bit more local funding for support for that. And because of the budget situation, both with the city of Marshall and also the school district, we decided to take a year off with the promise that we would come back to the board and talk about another SRO coming on board. With all of the things that have gone on with school safety in the past year, all of the legislation that's out there, the increase in federal funding for this purpose, for the COPS grant, to fund school resource officers in schools, as well as what's gone on at the state level, numerous legislation in there, and we're expecting that the state would have some dollars available as well to support this as an ongoing thing. We'll just see how that evolves at this point. We have some local funding that supports the SRO, and we'd like to apply that as well, and we've carved out some space in our budget to get us through December for a school resource officer to come on board as early as this fall. I've talked to Chief Schwartz. He's actually has 2 candidates. He's looking at hiring one or actually one that already exists on the force may become a school resource officer. They have to receive training before they come in. They have to understand the parameters behind the agreement. I'm giving you an agreement now so that you can ask any questions that you may have. I want you to reflect on it because I'll be bringing this back to you in the combined work and business session in April. I believe that's on the 18th or 22nd, 18th probably. At that point, I want you to consider this for board action. I think it's important for the board to be behind our hiring of new school resource officer. In the list of all the whereases and the parameters, you're going to see a very defined role for the school resource officer. Clearly delineates between school discipline versus coaching our students and parents around illegal behaviors and also taking action if there is illegal behavior. But this was bone of contention because of the circumstances we had at the same time that we brought the school resource officer on. It was also the same time we had the Albion Middle School come over mid-year. But this agreement and funding that we received from Enbridge was done back in way before we decided to make that decision. After that's gone on, I've talked to the Civil Rights Commission numerous occasions on SROs and the concerns that the Civil Rights Commission continues to have in regards to school resource officers. We're not totally and categorically against it. We just want to make sure it's utilized in an appropriate fashion. One of the gentlemen, Anthony, from the School Resource from the Civil Rights Commission, and I spoke about this, and he was very pleased to see that we use this as a framework. The only caution he has is you have to be ever vigilant to make sure that you don't drift away from the expectations and the delineations between administration and the school resource officer. So very proud of the work that we did with that, and looking forward to moving forward with that, and I'll bring it back to you in April.
Randy, what about the NAACP and Albion? I know we had discussions with them 2 years ago. It might be worth just letting them know beforehand of
Right.
kind of an outreach.
Sure. In fact, at the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner where Anthony was from,
Yes.
the Civil Rights Commission, we had that conversation. So people are aware, but I'll make sure that they are doubly so. It's the purpose of bringing it out now and having 30 days before we bring it back for board action.
Good.
I'm sorry.
So there is a lot of things in here about what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. Do they find in real life that seem to work and that they work doing things that they shouldn't be doing?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think the only time that we had an incident, it wasn't an incident, it was an occasion of where administratively we were shorthanded and asked the school resource officer to go up and talk to a person and check their locker. That's not appropriate in regards to the discipline. When we have a suspicion, reasonable suspicion, not reasonable cause, our threshold for investigating and talking to students and searching lockers and those kind of things are lower than the police department or law enforcement. So we don't want to mix the two. We don't want to have the law enforcement officer going up and doing something that we would normally do, because they have to have a higher standard for that. They have to have reasonable, just cause or reasonable cause. So that was the only time lines got blurred a little bit, but that was dealt with, quite frankly, very quickly and transparently with the family involved. And that was just one occasion out of many experiences that we had during the 17-month period.
The other thing is how do you how they start out at
Yes, in a perfect world, we have two, because our size has grown considerably based on locations of what yesterday. But there's a community resource officer in Albion. And she's been involved with our schools quite frequently and comes and goes and has a good relationship. Because of oversight and authority in that area, you have to stay with Marshall and work with the Albion law enforcement that way. We're thinking one to start with, and if we go with two, that would be fine. But we're going to start with one and see how that volume works. We usually station out of the middle school, and then we rotate around based on routine things that they do normally at elementaries or in high school. Any other questions? Okay, good.
Thank you. And on to leadership team reports.
In the package, you have a whole bunch of reports from the leadership team.
Absolutely.
We'll leave that open for you guys if you have anything specifically to comment on.
I just want to say I had the opportunity to go to the Walters Science Fair, and it was amazing, the engagement of the students that were there and the parents and the faculty, so it was just very well done. So congratulations on having a successful science fair. And then I want to say thanks to Gordon for having me in to read in Mrs. Tucker's kindergarten class. So that was pretty amazing, great class, and they even had a sub that day, and the kids were still really great. So it was just a good opportunity.
The reports are a little bit They didn't cover March so far, of course, I was at the, middle school science fair, and that was a lot of fun. And, I think Dave, comes out of retirement and does his Chuck Berry, impersonation, but, that's always a fun time, but I also had a chance to go to Hughes, and Hughes did the Superman, or super person, books that they wrote in classrooms. That was really awesome. I got to be a judge on that.
Comment on that behavior, talk about that in Gordon, just how like that child study or the other behaviors that sound like they talk about it.
I don't have a lot to say about that anymore.
I can comment on that. So, we, as a proactive approach to, curbing some of the behaviors that might take a student outside of the classroom, our behavior specialists take the first 40 minutes of every day to touch base with, I think, a personal face-to-face contact, with, a pre-selected group of students that are based on, teacher input, data involving any type of referrals or anything like that. So she breakfast with them, she'll, go hang out with them in the morning, she makes like a first one that we call behavioral round, she does in the morning, and then again in the afternoon, so that she makes 2 points of positive contact. Because research shows that positive interaction with the adult can oftentimes shape, how the student enters and leaves. So there's a lot of success with some of our curriculum providers that they're getting attention to positive channels, which is so common today. So some of the strategies that we're trying out and tracking data, to sustain that model so far, it has really, seems like it. Just because it does, I mean, just in case you children know, like, a child had a rough morning, getting to school, and then something happened on the bus, they might not hear a positive thing before they step up to the classroom. Review it, kind of like a review. It just kind of set them up before classes begin. So that's her model for team. We have to utilize her. A little more traditional, but we will set that first hour break as far as the proactive, positive behavior.
So I gotta give a shout out to Madeline Russell, you saw that in there. She's, moved on to the next level for National Merit Scholarship, really outstanding in high school. There's a lot of other really good information that we need to share, but I think we're gonna hold off until April based on the report. Because we have to talk about FFA success, we have to talk about, 2 of our graduates of early college and their success. That's all coming forward to it. A lot of good news to share.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Thank you again for the reports. We love getting those every month, especially with all the pictures nowadays. I love those. Okay, move on to discussion items. Request for proposal for fuel bids being sought.
Just wanted to give you guys a heads up that next month we'll be bringing fuel bids to you, which we do every year, but we're going out to bid right now for those. So Mike is preparing more stuff for that, and we'll be bringing them back next month.
Any questions? Okay, the next one is bids being requested for lawn care.
So same thing, we're placing out bids right now, and we'll see bids, and then we kind of go through and figure out where the best pricing is on bids, and we have a lot of lawn to be mowed, so we typically pick a couple contractors and we move forward from there. So we'll bring those to you next month as well.
Questions there? Okay. Move on to action items, financial technology. I'll read A through D. A, approve the purchase of desktops for MYCA. B, approve the purchase of Chromebooks for Harrington Elementary. C, approve the purchase of Chromebooks for Hughes Elementary. And D, approve the iBoss content filter renewal subscription. Are you going to give us background, or who's? Okay.
And so you're gonna take all of them?
Yeah, everybody okay, I think, yeah.
With additional funding available, a second computer lab with Windows desktops and monitors at the NYCA are in need of upgrading. Leveraging the quote previously received with the recommendation of Technology Director, the Marshall Public Schools purchased 31 units from Trinity 3 using the title funds and pending the final approval of consolidated application. That was for A. B, due to the age of 4 Windows 10 laptop cards at Harrington Elementary, it was determined they should be replaced with 4 Lenovo 100U Chromebook cards. Leveraging the quote previously received and its recommendation of Technology Director, the Marshall Public Schools purchased 120 Chromebook units and 4 media cards from Trinity 3 using title funds and pending the final approval of consolidated act. Both of those, by the way, are in the board packet. C, at Hughes Elementary, there is a need for additional cart of Lenovo 100U Chromebook. Leveraging the quote previously received its recommendation of Technology Director, the Marshall Public Schools purchased 30 Chromebook units and 1 media cart from Trinity 3 using title funds and pending the final approval of consolidated act. And D, as the iBoss content filtered subscription has expired, it needs to be renewed. Over the course of the last few months, the technology department has evaluated several different vendor options. The content filter term length would be 3 years. Upon soliciting quotes from other vendors of this term, it was determined both the price and the product are best suited for Marshall Public Schools. It was the recommendation of the technology director that Marshall Public Schools renew the contract with iBox using budgeted funds of $7,919.20 annually, spanning the next 3 years. It is the recommendation of Superintendent of Action on Financial Technology be approved as presented.
Motion, please.
I move for approval of 8A through D.
Support.
Okay, discussion.
So the first 3, A, B, and C, are all title funds, and the last one is budgeting funds, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Any other questions?
Does the consolidated application, does that come back in front of us? Is that,
No.
okay. This is a piece that goes into that, each of these are pieces then?
Yeah, it goes, we complete, actually, consolidated apps that are give and take, with the process of Michigan Department of Education, the supervisor who oversees that process,
Okay.
federal government,
Okay.
flow through to the state.
Any other questions?
Any help for that? Yeah, Jones?
Okay, we'll start with Brent.
Yes.
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 Okay. I will ask for a motion to have the Board of Education move into executive session under Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of the superintendent's evaluation.
Make that motion?
Should I do a roll call or? And we'll do a roll call with Lisa starting.
Yes.
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 Okay. We're now going to go into closed session.